Hi, everyone. My name is Anthony Cruz III, and I'm the publisher of the Capital Sports Report. I am also the host of the Capital Sports Report Live podcast. Tonight, we have an IMSA racer that's joining us, but first, I would like to play this video. Welcome to the show tonight, Dominic Starkweather.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to join.
Dominic, for those that do not know, how did you get started in racing?
Yeah, so an unconventional start, I'd say. I was 10 years old, and I always wanted to be a motocross racer, and I got a dirt bike for my birthday and started playing with that. And I didn't come from a racing family, so we didn't just go to the motocross track or anything like that. We just go play out in the desert, and I really loved it and enjoyed it, and that's kind of where my passion for everything exploded. So from there, we sold that when I was a kid because my parents were afraid of me getting hurt, and so then we got some go-karts and started playing with those in the dirt as well. And then my dad, he had a track racing Camaro that he'd go to track days with and stuff like that, and I would always go with him. I'd be his crew chief for the weekend, occasionally get to ride with him and stuff like that. And I think he could tell how much I enjoyed it. And he always says I would tell him what to do, and that's when he said, "Okay, you go and drive." And I went and drove it one day, and did really well, and it all exploded from there. So,
Dominic, you mentioned motocross.
yeah.
That season is approaching. Do you, when you have time or when you get the chance, do you watch Supercross from January to maybe May when it's still going on the TV?
Yeah, big Supercross fan. I watched all the races this year. Most of them. I watched all the 450s and most of the 250 East stuff. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. Jet Lawrence kind of just dominated the field, and I would have liked to see Cooper Webb, put up a little bit more of a fight at the end. And my boy Cameron McAdoo kind of got hurt there when he was in second, looking to have a good year. But yeah, I really enjoy Supercross.
You talked about a friend. Do you have a favorite racer, whether it's in the past, maybe like Ricky Carmichael, Jeremy McGrath, Travis Pastrana? Some people don't know that he got a start in Supercross before he went to the X Games and became extra famous. Or today with Jet Lawrence, Cooper Webb, Kenny Roxon, those racers today. Do you have a favorite driver or favorite rider?
Yeah. From back in the day, James Stewart was always, he was a cool guy to watch and fun to watch. But these days I like Cameron Lawrence a lot, or not Cameron Lawrence. I like Cameron McAdoo. He's really fun. He's always, he's the toughest guy in the sport in my opinion. And Kickstart Kenny, he's fun to watch too. So
you mentioned after motocross, at a young age, you gave it up to go kart racing.
Yeah.
And it's totally different form of racing. So how long did it take you to adjust to that kind of racing?
Yeah, well, it wasn't really go-kart racing. It was more just like, it was, again, playing around on the go-karts. I never raced them. I would drive them a lot, break them, and then fix them. So I kind of learned a lot of mechanical skills from that because I broke them a lot. I'm kind of hard on equipment, so it required me to fix them a lot. But it was fun, that's where it all started. And actually I do I do more karting now than I used to. I'm going to the go-kart track tomorrow. My buddy just texted me about it. I spent all weekend prepping my kart, and that's what I like to do in between the races.
So tomorrow you'll be racing?
No, we'll just practice. We'll, 4 or 5 of us will go out at the track, and we'll start in the afternoon and run into the dark. And it's good. It's good physical practice for in between the races, and then it keeps you sharp. So
it's a friendly competition.
it is. Yeah, me and all my racing buddies will go out and we'll battle it out. So
You talked about keeping you focused. How does that keep you focused? Because when you're doing IMSA or the GT4 Americas, you're on usually a road course.
Yep.
So in go-kart, you're kind of on like a road course, but you got a lot of weaves and everything. But it's totally different cars.
Yeah, for sure. It's a go-kart is like a miniature Indy car. It's the closest thing to, an Indy car or a Formula One car that most people will ever feel. And the tracks are all the same. It's just smaller. So everything translates pretty well, and you're not going faster, but everything is coming at you so much faster in a go-kart, especially on the small tracks. These go-karts, they go 80 miles an hour, 80, 90 miles an hour. So it's good. It helps you. I call it the speed blur. Everything's coming so fast. So when you hop into a car, everything slows down. At least that's what I tell myself. So
when you were younger, present day, we talked before we began this, that you and your father began building classic cars together.
Yeah.
For those who do not know, could you tell our audience about that?
Yeah. So again, same thing when I was young, my dad loved classic cars. His first one he got was a 32 Ford Roadster. And that was the oldest thing I've been around at the time. And it was cool. It was, we didn't do much work on it. We didn't have it too long, but it was kind of like the intro into the car scene for me. And then actually when I sold my dirt bike when I was, 10 or 12 years old, we got a 1969 El Camino that I was supposed to, rebuild and drive to high school. And next thing you know, 5 or 6 years later, it was done. And I didn't drive to high school because I liked it too much. I didn't want to mess it up. So it was too nice.
And then what did you do with it? You parked it at the house? Or
Yeah, no, I still have it. I'm actually I'm about to rebuild it and do phase 2. So, new brakes, new motor, maybe some new suspension stuff. So making it a more reliable car that I could drive and enjoy more often rather than a show car. So
kind of like a daily driver?
No, not that much, but something that I could, go cruise on the weekends and, bring to the car show if I want, stuff like that. So,
okay. What kind of cars did you and your father build?
Yeah, so that was one of them. We built the 69 El Camino. We built a lot of like 80s K10 Chevy trucks. I think we probably built like 6 or 7 of those. 1963 C10. We've built all sorts of things. We've even had a Buick Skylark, but we didn't build it much. We just kind of flipped it real quick. But
oh, so you fixed it and then sold it?
Fixed it and sold it. That's it.
Is that what you did with the majority of the cars? Did you guys not save, but do you still have any of the cars that you built together?
Yeah, we have the El Camino we have, and we'll never sell that, and that's really the main one. Most of the other ones we all we built them and sold them. So
you talked about car shows, and before we began this, you said that you're from Arizona, close by Scottsdale, Arizona.
Yep.
And we talked about Barrett Jackson goes there once a year in January. And you said that you attend those shows. What is that like?
Yeah, we again from the time I was probably around 13 or 14, we'd go to Barrett Jackson every year. We go to this car show every Saturday night. It's called the Pavilions. That's when just regular people bring their old cool cars down and show them off. But yeah, Barrett, there's not much like it. It's kind of like, especially Barrett Jackson Scottsdale. It's like it's the peak of car auctions. It's like the Indy 500 for car shows and classic car auctions and stuff like that. it's pretty cool. All the lights, all the famous people that come out, the super cool cars that roll through there. It's nothing like it.
When you went to Bear Jackson, did you and your father, when you were restoring cars, did you purchase any cars from there? I know that they could be very expensive from there. A lot of them are already rebuilt, but do they have like ones that you can buy and then rebuild yourselves?
Yeah, we've bought 2 cars from there, and then we've sold a couple cars there as well. We sold one car at Barrett, and then we sold another car in a smaller car auction. But yeah, they're pretty expensive. But we go, when you go a lot, you figure out the days that are slower, and you find the cars that are cheaper. So
What days are slower? Because isn't that like a week long?
yeah, it's like a week long. So I believe that the auction itself, the car auction, usually starts on Tuesday. So,
Okay.
it goes Tuesday through Sunday. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are like the slower, kind of cheaper price cars. Sometimes not as nice, but if you know what you're looking at, sometimes you can find some good ones and get a good deal. But yeah, when Friday, Saturday night roll around, things start getting very expensive. So
That's when they bring out the rich people.
that's when they bring out the big bucks and the big cars, and they do the charity stuff for $5-6 million, and yeah, it's fun to watch.
Wow. When you were at those car shows, did you get any ideas in your brain or write down like, "Hey, I would like to do this car one day if I had the chance"?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's a lot of cars that I'd like to build. I've always wanted to build like a chopped 53 Mercury, or a 55 Chevy C10. Those are a couple that are on my list, but not in the plans right now. I'm too busy racing and traveling around to be rebuilding cars like that these days. So
Maybe you can hire some people to do it for you.
no, that takes the fun out of it. The whole fun is building it and messing it up and then redoing it. So
Okay. Back to your racing career.
yeah.
I read that you got your start in racing as a passenger in your father's race car.
Yeah. Yep. So my dad had a 1989 Chevy Camaro that we built into a race car. And he never raced it. He just did like, track day stuff on the weekends. He really, he grew up watching NASCAR and, Dale Earnhardt, and that was, he really enjoyed that. So when he got older, he could build a car, and we'd go out and race it and work on it and stuff like that. And I'd ride in the passenger seat and get to watch. So get to be a part of it.
Was it like like a drag racing kind of
No,
car?
it's always been, like road racing, circuit racing type
Okay.
stuff. It's what we've always loved, and it's what we'll always do, I think so.
Could you talk about attending the Spring Mountain Motor Drag Racing School, which you attended twice?
Yeah, so coming up in racing, I didn't come from a racing family. We didn't have a racing background like most people do. So I did my first track day, and then I had an instructor in the car, and my first time on the track, he said, I can't teach anymore. You've outdriven my knowledge, and we didn't really know what that meant. And when we do things, we tend to overdo them. So we thought, oh, we'll go to a racing school, and we'll see, what happens from there. So we did. We did a couple track days. I probably did, 3 or 4 track days, and then went to my first racing school, and it was awesome. It wasn't really, they do have more race inspired schools there or classes there, but it was more of like just fine tune your abilities in a safe environment and on a track, and learn some track things and stuff like that, which we did, and it was awesome. And I went back the second time, and I was driving faster than most of the instructors that were there, and it was cool. It was cool to kind of see the progression and build the foundation before I had the time to make a bunch of mistakes. I got to learn from people that knew what they were doing. I got to have, instructors and coaches teach me rather than me having to go figure it out like I was building cars. So it was super cool.
I may have said it wrong the first time. It's Spring Mountain Motor Driving School. I think I said drag racing school, but
Yeah,
it's a driving school.
Yeah, it's a cool place.
So I want to correct that if I got it wrong. You said the second time you were faster than the instructors. So did you get in trouble for that?
I did actually. I wouldn't say in trouble, but the chief instructor of the school came up to my dad and said, how long has he been doing this? And he's like, "What are you talking about? This is like second time, first second time on the track." And he's like, "Well, my instructor can't keep up with him. He was in front of me and I was catching him. He goes, he's doing everything he can to stay in front, and he's got to slow down. We don't know his level of experience, if he's just winging this, or which I was, if I'm being honest. I didn't really know what I was doing. Young kid with no fear, just hits a loud pedal and hope it sticks."
So you were in an individual car behind the instructor,
Yeah.
and you were racing, and you caught up to him.
Yeah, I was pushing him along.
Oh wow! And initially, you got your start at the SCCA and STU. For our audience, could you tell could you tell them more about those?
Definitely, yeah. So when I was at Spring Mountain, the driving school, my second time there, they have a class that you could take to get your SCCA, which is the Sports Car Club of America racing license. And so I went there the second time and got that license, and then that's where I started racing. And that's where my amateur career started. And there's a lot of different classes within the series of SCCA. It's just like, any amateur racing. There's a bunch of different cars, a bunch of different competitors that, enter. And so that's where I started. We started with a, Toyota 86 that, we hand built and had no idea what we were doing when we were building a race car. We came from building show cars, and it was our first time taking a swing at building a race car, and we did. And, it worked out. So
when you were just starting, in your bio, it said that you excelled at those two, and then you won a championship race.
Yeah. So, in 2019 is when 2018 or 2019 is when we started club racing, and it was going really well. In 2020, I won, or in 2019, I won the Cal Club Championship race, which is like the West Coast region, their championship race. And then the next year, I went and won the 2020 U.S. Major Tours Western Conference Championship. And then I won within that. There was another championship that we won called the Cal Club Championship. So it was a fun place to start the career. So,
and the type of racing you do, it's not traditional racing. It is traditional racing in a way, but it's not like a regular race, like a NASCAR race or a drag race. It's a lot of endurance racing.
Yep.
And we talked about this beforehand. So you talked about the Rolex 24 before we began, and we'll talk about that later. But endurance racing, you're in the car often by yourself for long periods of time.
Yeah.
And you're racing around trying to beat the other people. But in the IMSA, there's different categories, and you're trying to be the first in your class. Yep. So for our audience, they might not know much about endurance racing. Could you talk to them about that?
Yeah. So there, I'm sure people have heard of the Rolex 24 hour or 24 hours of Le Mans. Those are some of the most iconic endurance races in the world. And this year, 2024, I got the opportunity to race during the Rolex 24 weekend. I got to do the 4-hour race in the Michelin Pilot Challenge with Aston Martin. That was super cool. And there's multiple different races going on at the same time. There's let's say for the Rolex 24-hour, there's 4 or 5 different classes of cars that are competing against each other at the same time, and they're all different speeds. So within your race, there's other races going on. So you have to manage traffic. You have to let the leaders go by and not get slowed up, or it's hard. It's endurance racing is quite hard. And then you have the physical aspect that you were saying. You're in the car for at least an hour, but sometimes 3, and it's basically like sitting in the sauna doing a workout.
Why is that? Because it gets so hot in there?
Yeah, especially in the summertime, it gets really hot inside the cars, or it's usually 140 to 160 degrees. You're in a 3-piece racing suit with a helmet on, and you are just people don't realize how physical sports car racing is. It's not as physical as IndyCar. We have some luxuries like power steering, and most of the time we have ABS, but yeah, it is tough. The brake pressures you have to reach, and then you have the mental aspect of it. As you're going 180 miles an hour, one little mistake, it's all over. The race is over. Could be in the wall, could ruin someone else's day. There's a lot of things that go into it.
You talked about being in the car for 1 hour to potentially 3 hours.
Yep.
When you're in that car and it's being so hot, you have to have a lot of fluids in your system, or you cramp up, or you have some other problems going on.
Yeah, like it's really tough. So you have to prehydrate a lot. You have to eat very well. You have to work out a lot. Like the workout regimen it's pretty tough with doing all the endurance stuff. We cycle and run a lot, and then you have to still be strong enough to wheel the car around. So you have to balance that. And then when you're in the car, hopefully you have a water system or a drink system. Unfortunately, when I did the 4-hour this year, there was 3 of us, and so the stints aren't very long, and I was supposed to be the shortest stint because I got called up on 4 days notice to do it, and so I was supposed to just get us through the start of the race, pick up some spots, and then bring the car home safe. Well, we didn't have the water system in for me because it would have been an extra step during the driver change. So, and then a yellow came out, so I stayed in the car. I was supposed to be in there for 40 minutes. I stayed in there for about, I think, an hour and 40 minutes. No water, no
Wow.
cool shirt, no air conditioning, and just sweating it out. I think I lost 5 to 8 pounds in that race.
Wow. You talked about a drink system and they couldn't put it in for you. What did they have to do for when they switch out the drivers? Does it take a lot of time to do, or is it something easy they could do?
It's not really time. The act itself is not time consuming, but there's a lot of things going on. So when the next guy gets in, he has to now add an extra step. And if you're already rushing to get the driver change done, so trying to switch a water bottle out or do something like that. If a hose line gets pinched, for the water helmet, or it doesn't get connected and it just sprays everywhere, there's a lot of variables that are in it. So, and like I was only supposed to be in the car for 40 minutes to an hour, so it wasn't a big deal until it was. So,
What you mentioned like a water bottle with that. Is
yep.
it just a water bottle, or is it like more in depth and there's a lot more things? Maybe like a 1 gallon water bottle, like a 1 gallon in there for you.
Yeah. So it's like this is probably a bad example, but if you've ever seen like the movies like a NOS tank, like a nitrous tank, it basically looks like a tiny version of that. And like a hydro flask, that's probably a better example. And you have to plug it into a machine, and then on your steering wheel you have a button that says drink, and it just shoots water into your mouth. Or some of them are mechanical, where you have to suck on the tube, but the nice ones you just hit a button and it shoots the water into your mouth. So
yeah, because I know like a lot of like NASCAR drivers, they have it like through their helmet.
Yep, through the helmet. Yep, just through the front of the helmet. Yeah.
The helmet.
Yep.
You mentioned working out. So what's like your gym regimen to do these
Yeah.
kinds of races? Because you said it's got to be very detailed.
Yeah, it's when I was a little bit, I was not saying when I was a little bit younger, like a year or two ago, it was a lot. I worked out a lot harder. I've had a couple, injuries here and there along the way, so I have to work out smarter now instead of just, you know, working out as hard as I can, trying to kill myself. But yeah, running 2 to 3 times a week, cycling 2 to 3 times a week, and then try to be in the weight room at least 2 to 3 times a week as well. So, because with all the cardio comes, losing a lot of calories and losing muscle mass. So, got to be back in the weight room, trying to stay fit and stay strong still.
Well, hopefully, your calorie intake is not like some of these NFL players who eat like 10,000 calories a day.
No, I don't think I could eat that much even if I wanted to. So,
Yeah, I know, like JJ Watt, like he posted years and years ago, he was eating like 10,000 calories a day. It's crazy.
yeah, it's nuts. Michael Phelps, he was one of those dudes that said that stuff too, and he had to eat so many calories he wasn't even eating healthy food. He'd just go to McDonald's and eat a couple Big Macs because it was a lot of calories. But I try to have a relatively clean diet and eat good, and I don't need to be a 240 pound tight end. I could be a little 160 170 pound race car driver.
You raced to the endurance races at COTA, which is the Circuit of Americas in
Yep.
Austin, Texas, and you also did the Barber Motorsports Park in Alabama. Could you talk about racing at these two circuits?
Yeah, so that was in those were in 2019. That was in the series called the WRL, the World Racing League. It's an amateur series as well. That was when I was coming through the amateur ranks. I had actually the team I was on. I met the team owner / co-driver at the Spring Mountain Driving School. He was one of the instructors there, and yeah, we got to go race at some iconic tracks. That was my first time at COTA. Uh, First time at COTA, along with my first time racing in the rain. So that was interesting. It was a 90 car field that weekend. Yes, 90 cars. It
Wow.
was insane. Again, multi-class. There was probably 10 different classes on. Going on through the race, and trying to figure out who you're racing against, and is this for position? Is this one of the top leaders coming through? For one of my first races and first endurance race, it was probably a little overwhelming, but it was awesome. I wouldn't have changed anything. So we actually podiumed that weekend in COTA and in Barber. We got, I think, third at COTA and second in Barber. So
And for those that did not hear, or maybe needs a reminder, Dominic said he raced in the rain. So this is not no NASCAR, no drag racing. These guys race in the rain.
yeah, rain or shine.
And that makes it more difficult for you guys.
No, definitely for sure. We you know, in all the pro stuff and the IMSA stuff, we'll put on a different tire, a wet weather tire. Well, you have to set the car up differently to race in the rain. It, generally speaking, has to be a little bit softer. You have to change, suspension settings, and then you have to change the way you drive. You usually can't drive the same line. You have to change your line to a wet weather line. Um, you can't drive nearly as aggressive. You have to be extremely smooth to not lock up the front tires or, spin the rear tires going back to gas. So it's a whole different challenge, but that separates the boys from the men right there.
Does your team talk to you beforehand? If it does rain, here's what we're gonna do. Because you talked about this line, and you got to race a line. And does your team tell you beforehand if it does rain? Here's what we're gonna do compared to nice weather.
They won't necessarily tell us, the driving line. That's on us as the drivers to figure that out. And you have to find where the grip is. They can't really tell us that, but they could tell us, hey, because sometimes it's only raining in certain parts of the track. So
Okay.
they're like, oh, it's raining in sector 2. So, it's raining corners 7 through 9, take it a little bit smoother there. But yeah, if it starts raining, we'll come in, we'll change tires and we'll maybe adjust a couple things on the car, and then we'll go back out and see what happens. So
Outside of those two racetracks, you also raced at one's still standing. The other one's still there, but nobody's racing on it anymore. It's been sold to developers, I believe. And so you raced at Laguna Seca, which is I think it's called WeatherTech Laguna Seca now. And then the other one is Auto Club Speedway, which is the track that I was hinting at a few seconds ago that NASCAR last raced at in 2023. I believe it's been sold off to developers presently, so I don't think they're going to be racing there anymore.
Yeah, so we race all over. We race everywhere in the States and in internationally sometimes. So I just got back from WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, not last weekend, but 2 weekends ago, where we had the second round of our IMSA series, where we had good success. We got third and second, which was good, and yeah, racing Auto Club. That was my first time ever racing on a Roval. First time being to a big time track like that. Maybe not my first time being a big time track, but especially first time at a NASCAR track, running the Roval, half oval, half road course. It was pretty cool.
One of your videos on, I believe it was a video on your social media or Instagram, was about racing at Indianapolis.
Yeah.
Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It's a very historic track.
Yeah.
What was it like competing there with all the history?
Yeah, it is it's by far the most iconic track I've ever raced at. I raced at, Daytona and Indy, some of the most, the most iconic and biggest tracks in the world, and let alone in the States. And, every time, especially the first time, but every time you drive under the bridge to enter Indianapolis and enter the track, it is like, it's mind blowing every time. The track itself is just so cool and so iconic. And then there's just what seems like miles of grandstands that you can never see the end of, or, it's so tall to where it blocks out the sun. It's super cool. And then you have the museum at Indy as well. So, whenever you go there, you have to go check out the museum and see what they update. And yeah, just the, the history that's there. And it's awesome.
I don't know if you get to follow other series.
Yeah.
This weekend is very, very big in racing.
Sure
especially
is.
Two very, very big races. You got Formula One in Monaco.
Yep.
That will start off Sunday morning. Then you got the Indianapolis 500 at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We just talked about that track.
Yep.
And then at night, you got NASCAR with the Coca-Cola 600, which is their largest race of the season.
Yeah.
Do you get to watch those other series? Like maybe if you got time this weekend, if you're home, maybe you'll turn it on.
Yeah, and first and foremost, I'm a race fan. I always have and I always will be. Even when I'm at my own races, whenever I have a chance, if the Supercross race is on, I'll try to tune in between practices or at nighttime. But yeah, this weekend I got I don't have I'm not racing, so I will definitely be watching the 500. That is it's my favorite race of the year, the greatest spectacle in racing. I watched all the qualifying, like 7 hours of it this weekend or this past weekend. So yeah, and then I've walked the track in Monaco. I've never driven there, but I went there I think it was a week after the race, and I got to walk the track and walk under the bridge or the tunnel. And yeah, so this weekend's a good weekend for race fans. Nothing to complain about.
They still had the track up a week later in Monaco.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I don't know if all of it was up. I was young when we went there, but yeah, they definitely had still some of the barricades up and the temporary fence and stuff like that. It was super cool.
This weekend in the Indianapolis 500, I'm sure you're very aware of this. He's qualified for one and will be doing the other one on Sunday, and he's the first driver to do the double in 10 years when Kurt Busch did it. So Kyle Larson has qualified fifth for the Indianapolis 500,
Yep.
and should be able to make the Coca-Cola 600 in Charlotte, North Carolina. What's your thoughts on him doing that? That's a very impressive feat to be able to do.
Yeah, it is very impressive. And if there's one person in NASCAR that could do it, it's him. He's probably the most talented guy in NASCAR, especially these days. I was honestly surprised when he qualified fifth. It caught me off guard a little bit. I'm excited to see how he does in the race. It's going to be a lot different. They're not going to be able to bang up on each other as much as they do in NASCAR. So it'll be interesting to see how the race plays out, and then the physical aspect of it too. Going and racing 1,100 miles in one day, two different types of cars, an Indy car at Indianapolis Motor Speedway is probably a lot more physical than a NASCAR. So I'll be interested to see how he does. I'm excited for it. It hasn't happened in a while, so it's the big news of the race. So it's cool to see.
Now, with that, like you said, two different cars.
Yeah.
But he's been preparing for this moment for a while,
sure.
And you said he's very. If anybody could do it, he could do it because he drives so many different things. Like he does NASCAR. He's doing IndyCar this weekend. Yep. He's in a sprint car all the time. He's done late models. So he's very versatile and can do different things. And driving these two different cars is like nothing new to him.
For sure, yeah. He races probably almost every day. He at least races 4 or 5 times a week. So that helps. It's all about experience, and he's got a boatload of it. He doesn't have a lot of IndyCar experience, but he's on a very good team at, Arrow McLaren. And he's got, guys like Tony Kanaan to help coach him. And I think he'll do well. It'll be interesting to see how the race plays out for sure.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. All you can say is good luck to him because that's going to be one grueling day. Day.
For sure.
But while some people are going to have like cookouts, he's going to sit in that car.
Yeah. Well, everyone else is enjoying their time. He's going to be going through it. So.
Yeah. You also talked about racing at Daytona, which is the Daytona International Speedway for those that may not know. You talked about racing at the Rolex 24 feeder event. That's another marquee event. And that's where the Daytona 500 is held every February, the marquee event for NASCAR. When you raced there, did you have like any special moments come to you? It was like, I was watching like maybe Dale Jr. or maybe Dale Sr. racing when you were younger.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. That's where all the NASCAR legends, if you win that race, you become a legend in NASCAR, in my opinion. So yeah, to go there, and the big surreal moment for me was we got to walk the track before, and on the TV, it doesn't display how banked the track is, and it is me and my team of drivers. We walked up the bank at like the steepest point and was trying to walk sideways, and you like are falling down. And then it started to drizzle, and the track got a little slick. And no joke, we literally slid down the bank standing up. That's how steep it is. It is it's insane. When you're in the car, it doesn't feel that steep, but walking it, it's pretty cool.
Why don't you feel it when you're in the car?
There's just you do feel it for sure. It's just there's so many other things going on.
Okay.
You're racing, you're going 180 miles an hour. But yeah, when you come through that bank, you could feel it for sure. But walking it was like, that was surreal.
Okay. Presently today, you are a part of the IMSA Racing series. The IMSA Racing series. Could you talk about racing in that series?
Yeah, for sure. Last year was my debut in IMSA. Didn't expect it at all. If I'm being honest, we were racing in SRO GT4 America, and our team was also running in IMSA in Lamborghini Super Trofeo, and they were testing at a track in Arizona where I live, so I got to kind of test the cars while they were here. And then I, didn't have any expectations to do the race and got to do it on a week's notice, which was awesome. So I got to debut in IMSA at the first pro track I ever ran at, which was WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. And it was such a special moment for me and my family, and I podiumed there too. So I podiumed in my first IMSA weekend, which was awesome. And yeah, now it feels, it's just as special, but it feels almost normal now. But then every time you go there and you see the fans, like, no, this isn't normal. This is IMSA. This is awesome.
Okay. Your very first win was different, and I'm about to explain it.
Yeah.
So for those that do not know,
my first IMSA win, yeah, it was.
Yeah, his first IMSA win was different. So on Saturday, he was not credited as the winner. But the very next day on Sunday in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, he was credited with the win. So can you tell our audience about that?
Yeah, so I qualified, I think, second or third for that race. And, hour-long sprint race, just what we do today. And we were running the hour, and we made up a couple spots, and I was in second. And there was there had to be 5 or 6 minutes left, and a caution came out, and I was catching first. I was on their butt. I was running faster than them, and the caution came out, which was unfortunate because we thought we had the pace to win, but we were excited with second. We'd been struggling a little bit, so it was like a team win for us. And then Sunday morning, I walk into camp, and next thing you know, there's a first place trophy sitting there, and everyone's saying I won the race, and I'm like, I don't know. I think I sprayed the champagne from the second spot on the box yesterday, but the first place car failed tech. I can't remember what they failed for. Maybe it was ride height or something like that. And so we got the win. And it was funny because the next day I was qualified first for that race, and I led the race from start to 2 minutes until finish. We were coming through lap traffic right when the restart happened, and we got taken out by a lapped car with like 4 corners to go. So I felt what the guys from the day before felt like. I had my win kind of taken away from me, like they kind of had theirs taken away, but it comes and goes. And so
when you were credited with the win, were you allowed to celebrate as the winner and not as the second place person or third place person?
What was that? It cut out. I didn't catch you.
When you were credited with the win and you saw the trophy,
yeah,
you get to celebrate as the victor and not as the second place person. Did they allow you to have a second celebration?
I don't know if we got to have a second celebration because we had the second race coming up. Race 2 was right around the corner. It was in a couple hours, so we took a couple pictures and held our first place trophy with pride, but had to put it to the side and go battle for it again. So all that goes away, and it's a new race and a new day, and start over.
Outside of IMSA, do you still do the GT4 America cars?
Whenever I get the chance and an opportunity, I will do it. I stopped racing there full time in SRO in 2023. That's kind of when we made the move to IMSA, like I was saying, that short notice opportunity. And then I got to race a GT4 again at Daytona this year, in the co-main event for the Rolex. was in a GT4 car. So I haven't been back to SRO GT4 since 2023, but if an opportunity comes up, I will. I'll definitely be there.
But it would have to be when you have a free weekend and not when you're racing IMSA.
For sure. Yep. IMSA is the main priority, and we're second in the championship right now. So any can't be taking any weekends off. So
you hinted at this before we began this. Next year, you plan, if everything goes according to plan, to compete in the Rolex 24 at Daytona, which is the biggest event for you guys in January. What would that mean to you to compete on that field? Well, not field, but in that race with a lot of marquee names that usually compete in that. You got IndyCar drivers, NASCAR drivers. It's the who's who of racing.
Yeah, definitely. It, like I said, it was a goal for next year. I don't know if it will happen, but yeah, like you said, if everything goes right and if all the chips fall right, hopefully I get the chance to do that. But yeah, that would be more than a dream come true. Whenever the Rolex 24 happens this year, I was at it, so it was cool. I got to be a part of the weekend, and there's 150,000 fans there. In sports car racing, that's huge. It doesn't get much bigger than that. So to see all the love from the fans, to be in a field with, like you said, the most iconic names. Joseph Newgarden was part of it in 2024, and they won the race. It's awesome. It would be a very special moment. When that race happens, most of the time I'm at the couch, on the couch. I watch probably 20 hours of the 24 hours. I just sit there, and I'm, like I said, I'm a fan first. I sit there and I'll watch the whole race. Me and my dad do. Occasionally we'll fall asleep, but yeah, I try to watch as much of that as I can. So to be in it it'd be special.
But to be in it would one have to come down to your performance this year, correct? And also come down to funding.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of things, a lot of variables. Definitely, you have to perform to move up like that, which we're doing right now. We just came off a big weekend. We have Watkins Glen coming up in the end of June, and if we do good at that race, we'll be, we're in second right now in the championship, but I think a good weekend there could put us in first or cement us in at least a podium spot on the championship. And then, like you said, racing it's one of the only sports that you need to fund your way until you really make it. And fortunately this year, and last year too, we've had a big sponsor come in, Beacon Building Products, and help us out. But I don't know, like I said, all the chips have to fall right to get an opportunity in something like that. So we'll see.
You mentioned that you're second in the championship point standings.
Yep.
What is your goals for the rest of this season? Ultimately, you guys go out there every weekend, every race weekend to win, but there's only one or in your case, maybe multiple winners for the different categories.
Yep.
But only one person or one team is going to win that race. So you got to collect as much points as possible.
Yeah, so like last weekend especially, there were 41 cars entered in the race on the smallest track we go to. So, and it's not like NASCAR, we qualify with everyone on the track. We don't get one lap. Everyone goes out and you run as fast a lap as you can. And unfortunately, we didn't get to really show our pace in qualifying. So, one race we started from, 15th or 16th, and another one we started like all the way in the back. And so like the mindset going into the races, we need to capitalize on points. Like we just have to get some points. Fortunate enough, we played strategy very well and ended up on the podium twice. But yeah, going forward in the season, I'm the biggest competitor you'll find. I'm going to do whatever I can to win. But if we don't have a winning car, I'm going to do whatever I can to get as many points because winning a championship would be so special for me and so special for my team and my team owners. I know how much it means to them as well. Yes, I may be the only guy in the car, but there's so many guys that help get the car on the track and have so much time invested. And, we are a team at the end of the day. So I may be the guy in the car, but there's a team that makes it happen. So,
And well, if they're into racing, they would already know that you got at least 5, 10 people on your team that's working for you as the driver to benefit from it.
Yeah, everyone wants to win, and we're a big family, so we lose together and we win together. And my team owner said it's racing is managing the highs and the lows. So when the highs come, we have to take them and celebrate for a little bit, but then we got to get right back focused and try to do it again the next weekend. So
I'm looking at your schedule right now. It looks like one date you're on the same weekend of IndyCar, the Detroit Grand Prix.
yeah, yep. Our series does not race there, but yeah, like I said, we did the Michelin Pilot race, Michelin Pilot Challenge, and they'll be racing that weekend. We have the weekend off, so I'll get to watch the Indy Grand Prix, which will be nice. That's one of my favorites.
No, not the Detroit Grand Prix.
Detroit. Yep.
I don't know. There you go.
Yeah. That's not so. In IMSA, there's, like I said, there's multiple classes. So our series, Lamborghini Super Trofeo, does not run that weekend.
Oh, okay.
And I don't think I'll attend, because we're on the road a lot anyway. So it'll be nice to stay at home and get to watch it on TV. So
I did cover you guys. Well, you weren't racing in it then, but 11 years ago, I covered something that's not around anymore, called the Grand Prix of Baltimore.
Okay.
And I covered all 3 years of that event.
That's
and
awesome.
That event went in the streets of Baltimore, and it went around Camden Yards and the Inner Harbor.
Yeah,
and I covered those 3 races. And IMSA was racing at that IndyCar race. Well, on the same event, they did first. IndyCar was, I guess, the main feature, but it was a dual weekend.
Yeah, I'll be the same thing at the Detroit Grand Prix, like you said. You'll have have the IMSA guys there, and then you'll have the main event, as I like to say, is the IndyCar guys. So it'll be fun.
Dominic, outside of racing, I saw that you like to do some community service, and I'm going to talk about that next. Yeah. You went on 2 service trips. I don't know while you were still racing or beforehand, where you built houses in Mexico.
Yep.
Could you tell our audience about those 2 trips that you went on?
Yeah. So in high school, I was racing at the time. I was doing the SCCA stuff. It was when I was still racing amateurs. My school offered trips to one mission. It was a community service trip, and we got to go build houses for the homeless. And I was fortunate enough. I got selected to be the leader for both trips. And it was cool. Me and 30 or 40 of my classmates, we went down and we were sleeping in tents in the dirt, and we're building houses for the homeless. So it was very cool, and it's very eye opening. From racing, we get to live a good life, and we get to travel around and see some awesome parts of the world, and it opened your eyes to the other side of that doesn't get to see that. So it was fun, and it was very rewarding to help out and do stuff like that.
Where did you build those houses in Mexico?
Yeah, we were right outside of Rocky. Basically, the one mission, the company that organizes it, they drive us out into the desert, and there'd be like a little plot of land. And what we think of when we think of a house is a little bit different than what we were building. We'd probably think of them as sheds, but there'd be a foundation already laid. And if I remember correctly, it was 20 by 20. And in 3 days, it was Friday through Sunday, I believe, we'd build all the walls, we'd build the roof, and we would build a house. Like I said, we would think of it as, you know, a tool shed probably. It did have a bathroom in it, but they were, and yeah, so it's cool. It's cool to do stuff like that.
With your schedule and training for your races, do you still get to do community service today with everything you have going on?
You know, I definitely don't do as much as I should. That's for sure. I try to do. I try to volunteer at, you know, St. Vincent de Paul when I can, or donate blood and stuff like that. I've done some stuff with St. Jude, like, you know, St. Jude's walk and runathons. We've hosted a couple of those, but, you know, definitely don't do as much as I should. I've lived a great life, so I like to give back, and yeah.
Well, thank you for your time tonight, Dominic. Before I go, I would like to say that outside of being on Facebook Live and YouTube Live right now, this video will be uploaded onto Rumble, BitChute, and Spotify for podcasters in the coming days. And then once it's on Spotify for podcasters, it's going to be on the leading podcast companies that like Google and Apple Podcasts. So you can hear it on there as well. Thanks again for your time tonight, Dominic. Good luck on the rest of your season.
Well, thank you, Anthony. I appreciate you having me. If you guys want to, you know, follow me on my social media, you know, my Instagram, Facebook. Whether thank you.
I don't know what happened.